All right, this goes out to Chris Okonai. For some reason, I see your name and I think of you are Chris somewhere in the middle of Hawaii and Arizona. I'm not too sure what the deal is, but anyway, you're somewhere in between there, Chris. So this video is specifically for you. You asked me how to treat your IT bands. So your IT bands, and I can't explain what sets off an IT band. An IT band is kind of just as temperamental as your sciatic nerve. You could sneeze and set it off. Some people will have problems with it on and off. Some people never have problems with their IT band. If you go to a PT, normally what they're going to use is one of these tools. They use it on a technique called Graston technique, Graston technique. But a PT will use one of these little tools, something similar like this, and it has all these sharp edges, and it allows for digging and that kind of stuff. Or else they might even use a tool that looks kind of medieval, and it might be made out of metal, and what they'll do is they'll actually scrape your tissue with one of these metal little tools that they have, and they look kind of like knives, scrapers. They almost look like a pot scraper. Instead of, normally when a PT will do this technique on you, it will bruise the hell out of you. What it does, it helps to break up those adhesions in the tendon. Another way to handle it so it's not so invasive is to do it the way a massage therapist does. And instead of using those medieval tools that bruise the hell out of you, and then you go back a couple days later and they bruise you again on top of the bruising, what I use is a hot rock. So what I do is I found a river rock, and it's about the size of my palm, and you can see the thickness is about, I don't know, a little bit bigger than my finger, around there somewhere, but it has nice rounded edges. So what I do in my office is I actually heat this up in a little tiny crock pot. And I make it warm enough so that it's warm enough for me to hold in my hands, but I gotta keep moving it kind of fast. And what I'll do with a patient is I actually run it down the IT band. So it's gonna look something like, I'm gonna take it just like this, and I'm just gonna go, and what the rock does is it actually melts that tissue. So it's not as abrasive, and it normally doesn't tear up the tissue like the Graston tools do. I like the hot rock a whole lot better. The nice thing about these is, think about this, when you're hiking, is all you gotta do is go find yourself a little flat rock with nice soft edges down by the creek somewhere, and throw it in your little cook pot, heat it up. And most all of us have some kind of oil with us, so take a little bit of olive oil. If you don't have lotion, like some of us girls will have, get yourself some olive oil. Put a little bit of olive oil on the rock, heat it up, and run it up and down your leg. The olive oil is gonna give you just a little bit of lubrication. So if you just do it dry, it's gonna drag, and it's gonna almost feel like it burning, scraping your leg. So you need some kind of lubricant. If you happen to not have olive oil and you don't have lotion, then at least use water. This is one of the rare cases that you're gonna use heat. Is on your IT bands. For the most part, all the time that you have something going on in your body, you almost always want to use ice. But the IT bands are one of the few things that, yes, you are going to want to use heat and a rock. That's my best trick. Especially out in hiking, that is pretty simple. But you're just going to scrape that tissue. Just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can also use it on the flat side too. So if you're coming down the leg, you can go like this on the flat side. And like I said, if you want to scrape it like the PT does, use it as a scraping tool too. You should be able to feel those little lumpy bumpies when you go down that muscle tissue, that tendinous tissue. You want to do this until you're not really feeling that so much. Now you also notice that the first time you do this, you might not get all those little lumpy bumps out. What happens is you got to do this a couple of times to lengthen that tissue. The first time you do it, think of that tissue as kind of like an onion layer. And every time that you scrape that tissue and melt that tissue down with the hot rock, what you're doing is you're taking off a couple more layers of that onion. And eventually you're gonna get to the core and it just all melts away and you don't have any issues or any problems. I hope this helps. Super simple, easy technique. I wanna know about your name. Where does that come from? Just curious. So if anybody has any questions about IT band problems that I didn't answer, or you have another idea, I don't know, post it down in the questions. I hope this is helpful.